Short Film Festival, fall 2022 coming up, and we have an early selection. We're here with director Jack Fessenden to talk about his film, The Deep End, which we're really excited about. Hey, Jack, how are you?
Hey, Michael. Good. How are you? Good to be here.
I'm awesome. Thank you for coming. Judges are really impressed with your film. We're at the official selection stage. You're going to be screening. Our award nominations haven't been released yet. I'm sure we can do a follow-up if your film is nominated for an award here in a few weeks. But just impressive. The judges, every judge looked at your film and they're like, this is really cool. And I looked at your film and I said, this dude just shot on film.
Yeah, this was my senior thesis film for my college degree at Wesleyan University. And one of the things that they pushed there was shooting on 16 millimeter. They still have a room full of flatbed editing machines, the Steenbecks, which is, how movies were cut until the late 80s, early 90s. So we shot entirely on 16 millimeter and cut entirely on these old machines with the physical film. And so I learned so much about, really taking stock in what choices I was making, because each edit would take me, 10 minutes to make, as opposed to 5 seconds in Premiere, which is, what I've been used to using. So I really learned a lot about, being very careful and kind of thinking about premeditating every edit instead of just scooching things around, because I didn't have that option. So it was really a masterclass in editing for me, because I had a lot of footage and the movie had to be 12 minutes long. That was part of the requirements. So I ended up with a very fast-paced movie. But yeah, I can talk a little bit about what the movie is. It's a little.
Please do.
Yeah, it's like a home invasion thriller, kind of dark comedy turned tragedy, about a piano tuner who's in the house when two guys break in. But the couple who lives at the house, they forgot something. So they turn around in their car and they head back to the house, and everyone gets caught up in this botched affair that kind of goes south when someone ends up in the deep end of the pool with a bullet in his belly. So it's an ensemble piece, sort of inspired by my having grown up taking piano lessons and sort of being fond of the sort of almost mythic figure of the piano tuner here in the house, and make this uncanny racket for like 6 hours. And it's the most amazing soundscape you can, because it's not really music, but it is musical intervals, and they're just getting, ding, 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 ding. You hear it coming together, and I was always mesmerized by that experience of sort of listening to this cloying soundscape as a kid. And so I wanted to make a movie that sort of used that as its like source of sonic tension. And so the piano tuner in the movie is actually my long time piano teacher from like ages 11 to 18 when I graduated high school, Roger Peltzman. Great pianist, and also a cinephile. We mostly would just talk about movies during our lessons, and then maybe I would have practiced a little bit. But he was a great pal, and I knew I wanted to cast him as the piano tuner, because he would also be able to play that Chopin nocturne at the end. He learned that for the movie that you hear at the end. But for me, the movie is kind of about paranoia and gun ownership, and our propensity to be mistrustful of others, versus art as a way to uplift us out of those kinds of feelings, and as a coping mechanism for tragedy. Art is kind of one of the only things that people can turn to when things get really dark. So at the center of the story, there's Joy, the young gun owner, sort of a damaged young person, and then her former piano teacher, Roger, Frank is the character's name, who is the piano tuner. Presumably they stopped taking lessons, but they still hire him to keep him, in the circle to tune the piano. And his coping mechanism for life and dealing with things is he has this meticulous process which he engages in, which is very time consuming, and he's just there at the piano tuning it all day. And then she goes to the gun range. And so those two ways of dealing with things was kind of like the juxtaposition I wanted to put at the core of the movie, at least when I was writing it. And then all the other guys are kind of like pawns in the world of, like, you know, the sort of the silly husband who's loving, but also a little bit anal. And then the two crooks who are just, you know, the one guy works for the family and his friend, you know, probably convinced him to try to break in that day because they knew they'd be away. And so it's just really, it's sort of a farce in that way. Everything just goes wrong for these people. But that juxtaposition at the center is kind of what was eating me, you know, hearing things on the news and sort of always needing a project to have some kind of base grounded in like what seems wrong about the world or about America to me. That's kind of like how I have to enter into a project. Otherwise it's like, why am I making, you know, what's the point of making this? It can be a genre, it can be a fun, it can be anything, but it has to come from a place of something doesn't seem right to me and I need to express that in art.
How did you get started in filmmaking? You know, what was your first step to where it's like, okay, I'm going to create something that people can actually look at? Was school your first step, or was it before that?
It wasn't school, you know, I'd been making movies since I was a little kid, almost as a form of play, you know, with a little point and shoot still camera, had a video mode, and I would go out with my friends and we had Nerf guns and we had foam swords and we would run around and make little short films. And my mom is a stop motion animator and my dad is a writer and director and actor. And so this was just in my blood, and it was just a form of play growing up. Instead of, you know, tossing a ball around, we would go out and make little movies. So, and, you know, in my room, I would be doing Lego animations. And then in the summer, we would be upstate New York and we'd be running around with swords. So I was always a form of play. And then it became more serious in my early teens. I started to make short films that were longer, like 20-30 minute length short films with my friends and my dad helping and my mom helping as sort of as mentor figures. So I had like a bit of that professional input on the movies, even though they were being made by mostly kids. And then some of those played at the Woodstock Film Festival in upstate New York. And so I sort of got that fix of seeing what it's like to have an audience and people reacting to your stuff. And then it became very serious very quickly for me. And I ended up making a feature in high school, Stray Bullets, which got distribution and played overseas. And so I was hooked from a young age, and now I'm 22. I just graduated from Wesleyan, where I studied film, but it's not really a trade school at all. And I've made a second feature since, Foxhole, which just came out in May. That's available to stream now through Samuel Goldwyn Films. And now I'm developing a third feature that I'm trying to write and then, you know, eventually make, which is kind of more of a social drama. But
so, are any of these features on film?
No. That was the challenge of the deep end, was shooting on film and editing on film. These features were digital. They were honestly a breeze to edit compared, you know, even though they're 10 times as long almost. Yeah.
Sure. Well, man, it's exciting times, and it's like I really appreciate you being transparent about your background and about how you went about creating this film. I did want to ask you, how did you find your cast?
Yeah, great cast in this movie. I love every one of them. I tend to write ensembles, so it's always like you need to make sure every piece fits. In this one, Annabelle Asher, plays Joy, she was a student at Wesleyan who I'd seen in other thesis films and immediately wrote the part for. And when I reached out, they were on board. So that was kind of my first step, was locking in Joy, the main character, or, you know, one of the characters at the center of the movie. And once I had that character in, I needed the piano tuner, and I reached out to my piano teacher, told him, Raj, I got a part for you. He acted for me before, and he was, you know, he's always in. So I had those two players in from very early on, and I wrote it for them. And then Cody Costro, who plays the crook who has the mask on, Reg, he had been in Foxhole, and he's a friend of mine, a great actor, very improvisational and kind of dark and witty and all the things, you know, you want someone to be. He came on pretty early as well. I asked him to play one of the crooks, and he liked the script, and then he kind of took on some of the responsibility of finding his co-star his partner, because I asked him, like, well, do you have any actor friends or any friends who might want to play your counterpart? Because I figured it'd be good if they had chemistry already, and it would take some of the load off me, because I was kind of doing this on my own. It was a lot of people to put together, in addition to working with my student crew, getting everyone up to speed. So he found his roommate in the next room over to play the other dude, Jared Forrester, who is also an actor, and they had a rapport already, almost too much of a rapport on set. They were quite mischievous together, but it all worked for the movie. And then the last piece of the puzzle was Charlie, the husband, who had to kind of be a bit of a heart, a bit of a, an emotional center for the movie, at least in the script. It's all got so trimmed, but he was supposed to be a bit of a source of heart in the movie. And so I needed someone kind of puppy lovable, and if silly also at the same time. So I got a little bogged down with that one, though. So I needed to ask for help, and I asked Lois Drabkin, who cast my previous film. She's an amazing casting director working out of New York, and she just, as a favor, helped me find Matthew James Ballinger, who I remember him from being a bit part on Girls. So I was so excited when I saw his face. I was like, hey, he was in that one shot in Girls, because he's memorable. He's memorable. He's a great actor. And we met over Zoom. He had read the script. He liked it. And finally, I had my whole cast, just a week out from shooting. But each character came together in their own way. There's no like one way to cast a movie or to put together a team. It always is like, what is the best for this project? Okay, I have this person who has this skill set. This guy can play the piano. He can learn to tune the piano. So like, I'm going to go with that instead of trying to cast an actor, who can then fake those things. Because I like to come at it from that angle. Like, well, if there's a technical skill or something being displayed on screen, might as well have it be authentic, and then try to fill in some of the acting chops afterwards. At least that's one approach. Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting stuff. I appreciate, again, you spending time with us today. We're looking forward to screening your films. The judges in this festival are just very, very impressed with your work, very impressed with how you put it together. And I think those long edits that you had to go through really paid off.
Yeah, a lot.
It wasn't a bad
cutting room floor.
Yeah, literally the cutting room floor for you. And there wasn't a bad scorecard.
Oh yeah, thanks to the judges for their kind words about the movie. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this is my first. This I think will be the first screening for the movie other than at school, so I'm really excited for it to find an audience.
Well, I hope you or maybe someone from your team or maybe a local buddy is able to attend and let you know.
Yeah,
how
I hope
goes.
so too. Yeah.
But we're looking forward to it. We got plenty of time to plan. Obviously, in October we're going to be doing this. So. Yeah. Thank you so much, and have a good day, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Good to talk to you.
All right.
Cheers.